On the front of the little bookmarks is a piece, a very short piece by someone by the name of Howard Thurman. And I always think of these words as we go to pack the decorations away, put Christmas to bed for another year, and welcome in the start of basically doing it all over again. And I thought this morning, as we spend just a few moments preparing for what will be a busy year and a fruitful year and a joyous, productive year, I thought we'd just think about this statement, which Thurman has entitled The Work of Christmas. The work of Christmas, and by Jove, we've done the work of Christmas, right? He puts a slightly different slant on what the work of Christmas truly involves. This is what he says. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among brothers, and to make music in the heart. Have you read that before? It really speaks to me. I don't know if it speaks to you. Those 7 mission priorities. And for me, they kind of reflect Jesus' words at the start of his ministry when he stood up. We find him in Luke's gospel saying that the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. God's Spirit is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. Good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free. And I'm very conscious the bandmaster doesn't have one, and it seems such a shame because that last one, to make music in the heart, I think, the band helps us so beautifully every week to do that, and the songsters and the singing company and the contemporary worship group. Thurman's declaration reminds us that the celebration of Christ's birth doesn't end when the Christmas decorations come down or the carols fade. We stop singing the carols. And some of you are saying, thank God for that. The message and our encounter with the Christ child must change us. Those wise men, when they journeyed and discovered, they came to the place where the Christ child was, they knelt down in worship and they left changed men. Changed men. For one thing, the person that they were obeying, the person that they were following, had changed. They didn't go back to Herod. They didn't go the way that he wanted them to go. They went the way God told them to go. They were changed. And so for us, when we celebrate Christmas, when we hear the story again each year, that's simply the beginning of our ongoing mission to live the good news and to share something of the hope and love and joy and peace of the Christmas story. Yes? Now, as I say, in that bookmark that I've passed out, for me, there's 7 mission priorities, right? But I love that the first one points to that very special name that the baby was given, Jesus. Do you remember what we said Jesus meant? Apparently there are about almost 4,000 names in the Bible. But God the Father chose the name Jesus. Why? Because it pointed to his purpose. Jesus means to save, because Jesus would save his people. And his people wasn't just the Jewish nation, but all people. All people. And so our priorities as we begin a new year must be to find the lost. To find the lost. Jesus came to seek and save the lost. God the Father instituted this grand rescue plan that began in a manger, continued to a cross, and one day will end in heaven, in our heavenly home. But it began when Jesus came to save the whole wide world. He came to save the whole wide world, every single person on the planet. The Jews and the Gentiles, the people that weren't Jews. The shepherds, the ones on the outskirts, and the foreigners and the strangers and the heathen. He came to save the whole world, every single one of us. But Scripture tells us that he came even for just the one. Had there only been one of us, had it just been you, Bandmaster, or you, or you, or you, Jesus would have come for the one. And I love in Luke's gospel, we have the stories of all things lost, the parables, the heavenly stories that Jesus tells with an earthly meaning. We hear the story of the flock of sheep. Do you remember? The shepherd had 100 sheep, and we are told that 99 were safe. 99 were safe together, but one was missing. And the shepherd didn't say, well, 1% lost, well, I can live with that. No, we are told the shepherd went in search of the one. Jesus goes in search of the one. He cares about not just us. He cares about you. He cares about whether there's a question mark after that statement, he is here, or whether it's an exclamation. He cares about you. Each one of you and me. Everyone is precious. Jesus died for you. And for those who always turn over, go to the end of the book to see the end of the story, if you've turned your bookmark over, you will see that there's a little prayer on the back. And it may be a prayer that you want to pray, you need to pray, to turn the question mark into an exclamation mark of joy. That's a prayer that we find in the back of the war cry. Do you all know about our army papers, our weekly papers? The war cry has been going since, 1879, I think. And every week it tells out the gospel story. And I love that in recent years, certainly near the back, there's the believer's prayer for those who read the story and are moved to say, Lord, are you here for this lost soul? That's the prayer to pray. If you want to say, yes, Lord, I believe it. I believe that you were born. I believe you died. I believe you rose again for me. That's the prayer, simple prayer. But perhaps, that prayer, you've prayed a million times and you can always pray it again, and it's good to remind yourself of that act of faith that brought you to the foot of the cross. But perhaps as you leave this place, you can think of someone who's lost their way. Someone who's lost their way, who may just need to be reminded that they are remembered, that they are seen and loved. It was so sad to hear of the passing of John Carter just a couple of days ago. And I was reminded that soon after we came, we heard of John and how health had meant he hadn't been able to worship with us, I think, for almost 2 years. And he had real disappointments with regard to his treatment. And so I said to Alistair, right, we're going to go and find this guy. And it was hard to find. His house was incredibly difficult. And we came this close to saying, no, we tried. Can't find him. But we persevered, and eventually we tracked him down. He was quite shocked to see us. And we assured him of our prayers, a bit like we did this morning. Just reminding individuals that they are not forgotten when we don't physically see them. But in any case, 2 days later, John arrived back at the hall for lunch and club. It was marvelous. It was lovely to get to know him a little bit, but his health concerns continued, and really sad to hear of his passing. Really unexpected, I think. And again, a reminder that we are not guaranteed the rest of 2026. We're not guaranteed even tomorrow. All we have is today. Maybe today is the day to pray that prayer. Maybe today's the day for you to share the card, to share the prayer with someone, or just to call them, or to tell them that they are remembered in love and they're not forgotten. So, our mission is Jesus' mission as we shine for him, as we work for him, to find the lost, to heal the broken, Gary, I can't help but say it. I'm so sorry you broke your arm. The first thing I thought of when you told me was what Alistair would say, which is, see, I told you, exercise is bad for you. Sorry. But, we live in a world of so many people that are in pain. Wounded souls with broken hearts, where life has disappointed them, perhaps people have let them down. And the cross here reminds us that for us, for our salvation, for our forgiveness, for our healing, Jesus' body was broken. He was nailed to a cross so we could be restored. So we can know hope today through the pain, through the brokenness. And again, who is there in your life who greets this new year broken? The work of Christmas includes feeding the hungry. And my goodness, we did that with Joe's help and everyone else that took part. And that's important. It's important that we help those who are hungry physically. But the Bible tells us that man shall not live by bread alone. We need spiritual food. We need spiritual feeding. It's not good enough just to feed the physical body. Often that's where we have to start, and it's important that we do. But that must never be where we end. Where we say, job done, tick the box, move on. I wonder who can you, in this coming week, perhaps again with this little bookmark, who can you nourish with kindness and truth? To release the prisoner, we are there to help people find freedom. And people in our world are boxed in all sorts of ways, not least of which are those who, and I've heard it so often over the years, who say, I am not good enough. I'm not good enough to be a Christian. I'm not good enough to be a member of the Salvation Army Church. I'm not good enough. I remember coming across a lady who was an active member of one of our core. She was a saint. I mean, she was amazing. And what was unusual about her is in a core where you look down and, everyone was in uniform, is she wore civvies. And when I started to find out a little bit about her, I discovered that, she'd been born into the army, been a member of the fellowship, her whole life. But she wasn't a soldier, which, so what? I mean, there are different ways of being members of the church. But it was just, I wondered if there was a story there, if there was a hurt there. And so I said to her one day, I'm interested to know, why you're not a soldier. And she looked at me and she said, I've never felt good enough. And I mean, that shocked me because, if she wasn't good enough, who of us, are? And I said to her, look, none of us are good enough to serve the Most High God. None of us. Except that we love Jesus, who died on the cross so we could be forgiven our mistakes, our errors, our selfishness. And she must have gone away and thought about it, and in due course she decided that she wanted to be a soldier, and we made her a soldier, and she went on to be one of our senior leaders in the Corps, still active. So many think that they're not good enough for God, for service, for leadership. How can you be an agent of freedom to the people in your life? To rebuild the nations, well, that's a big ask, isn't it? Big ask to rebuild the nations. Our world is in a mess. And Alistair and I, we grew up in a country that was a mess and still is a mess. South Africa, we love it. We long for it to know peace and for its people to flourish. I remember in the early 90s, after that joyous day when Nelson Mandela was released from all those years of incarceration, walked through the streets of Cape Town for the first time. I remember the Chamber of Commerce in our city decided that they were going to do something in response, to say that they were with the freedom movement. And they organized a sort of a march around Cape Town. And at the end of it, in the Central Business District, all of us business people were invited to gather together and join hands with those out on the streets and pray a prayer, which I duly did, in my nice smart suit, a lovely, bright, clear day. And, we all felt really good standing out there, holding hands. Mostly a white congregation, a gathering. And then as we separated and I went to go back to my office, the office, I found that there was a young African woman blocking my path on the pavement. And she was beautiful and had a baby strapped around her with a blanket, which is typical in South Africa. But it was so crowded with all these other bodies around that, one of us had to give. And in the old South Africa, the expectation would have been she would move out the way. And of course, we were in the new South Africa, and it didn't even occur to me that that should be what she would do. I stepped back and waited for her to pass with her beautiful child. And as she passed me by, she caught my eye and sort of smiled. And as I continued on my way, I thought afterwards, in that moment, in those sorts of moments, that's where we begin to build a new world, to bring nations and people together in the one-to-one individual responses of compassion, of seeing each other and acknowledging and respecting each other. That's how we do it. It's one-to-one. And, my question for us all in a country that is so divided is, how are we helping to build this community of love and compassion? How do we show our respect of all, wherever they come from, whatever their views, whether they are the outsiders, the foreigners, the heathen, like the wise men were? How are we helping to build a better world for our children? To bring peace among brothers. Oh, that's a hard one. Brothers and sisters. Already this Christmas I've heard people say, oh, well, we couldn't meet with that member of our family and that other member of the family because, they're not talking, so we had to do separate. Why is it that we struggle, often most, to find peace and have peace within our families? And, we're right there with everyone else. Our family isn't perfect. But we know that when we find peace with Jesus, that helps. That helps to have that peace amongst brothers and sisters. And then that final one, to make music in the heart. Wow. Music has this way of uniting us, doesn't it? Get our feet moving. There's some things, I'm not a musician, sorry, bandmaster, but there's some things where you want to dance, right? Shine is one of those ones, I want to move. The band don't seem to be with me on that. But, music and what lifts our spirits and fills us with joy is personal, isn't it? But how will we bring joy to our loved ones, to our community? How will we make music in the heart as a community this year? We'll think more a bit about some of those priorities. But for now, that first one, to find the lost. Jesus came to find the lost. We're going to sing a beautiful song. King of kings, majesty, God of heaven, living in me. God of heaven, living in me. Opportunity for us all to respond and to stay in our seats and to bring ourselves in worship at the start of a new year. Or maybe you want to come forward and kneel here. Maybe you want to be serious about praying that prayer, the believer's prayer on the back. And coming forward would help you with that. You don't have to be there. You can stay where you are. But I'm just going to invite you to respond. Respond as we sing together.